Before you start, we are going to have a little look at your pattern. This is how it comes when you print it off. Check your test scale, that should be exactly 5 centimeters. I have two formats, A4 and letter size, because in the US and Canada you're using letter size paper, which is slightly wider and it's also slightly shorter, like mine. An A4 would be slightly longer and slightly slimmer. So you can't really put them on the same piece of paper if you want to be very economical, because it might well be that it cuts something off because it's a shorter paper. So make sure that you print off the correct format for you. For most of the world that would be DIN A4, and for Canada and the US it's the letter size format. Once you've done that, you will see that you've got these dashed lines going around. That's just attachment lines, which you completely cover when you put a piece together. And they're marked with a little white flower for the front, so you know, aha, these pieces go together here. Usually they're also in subsequent order when you print off, so you can see, oh yeah, this is all my front. And now we're starting on the back, which has this little pink flower, and there's another pink flower, so that will go with that. And then we have some with nothing on, because they're just single pieces for our back lining and the upper back facing and the lower back facing. And for the sleeve we've got a yellow mark, as you can see here, and again we've got attachment lines that show us where we have to put it together. So it's very simple, and it actually saves a lot of paper because you're only cutting out the size you need, and there's as much as I can put on a page. And you've got these extra pattern pieces, that's the frills for the hem and the frill for the sleeve, and I've already put them together. And as you can see, it says frill for the sleeve A, frill for the sleeve B, so you have to stick those together. They have this attachment line here which has been covered, and then we've got the frill for the hem A, B, C and D. So it always works in this alphabetical order, so it's very, very easy to do. The first thing to do is to cut everything out. I have put my pattern pieces into neat little piles for the back, the front, or the extra bits in my sleeve. So let's just have a look at how we put these together. It is very, very simple, but probably when you've never done a pattern of mine before, it'll be a new system. So let's have a look at this. Put sleeve A to sleeve B. You'll be saying, oh, this is easy. It's very good if you have very little space to cut out. You won't have to sit on the floor and do it. And if you are doing sewing courses and you want these patterns for your sewing classes, is ideal, because that's how I started with these patterns. That I was teaching sewing classes, and honestly, everyone buying a pattern and then bringing it in and all the rest of it, it was just not possible, not feasible. So being able to print these off and saying, well, which size do you need, which size do you need, and they just cut out exactly the right size. It's absolutely perfect. So now I've put together C and D, and then my last step is to put together A and B and C and D. And that's my sleeve. So I do the same with all the other pieces. When I'm printing off a lot of pieces, what I tend to do is I print everything off in fast or in draft, so that I don't waste a lot of my ink. So that's something to remember just for you at home. For me, of course, I want you to see it all properly. So this one we printed off standard. Now let's have a look at all the pieces, and let's start with the front and the back. Your front piece has an integrated collar, which is rolling around like that, and this will be folded back, and the collar will sit like that. This is called a shawl collar. It is quite simple to do. If you're very tidy, you have to make sure that you really hit that point when you're sewing, and you'll be golden. And then we've also got the buttonhole marked here, which is about 1.5 centimeters from the finished edge. And you have to be careful here that you actually do have that, because if you're using a big button, you don't want it to sit over the edge. You can use this little marking here to put your button on, or you can put them where you want. You can put one here, 1, 2, 3. That's what I'm going to do for my jacket in this case. So this is not like a rule that you have to put it there. You can put it anywhere really, but put it on this line. So don't start putting it over there. If you wanted another one here, that's fine. If you said, oh, I want another one here, that's fine too. Just make sure that it has a good 2.5 centimeters from the lower edge when it's finished. So you've got a centimeter here and then 1, 2.5 to that one, and the same up here. So you have to work out your distance so that the top one doesn't go into the curve and the lower one sits 2.5 centimeters from the finished edge, and you can put your buttonhole where you like. I took out my 2 examples here so that you can see what it looks like finished. And here I've used 2 buttons, for example, and here I've just used 1 button. So it's up to you which one, you know, you think is nicer. On a small size like this is the 1 to 2. I would definitely not put more than 2 buttons. It looks silly, or 1 button, because that's very nice. You can make this big piece here 2 times in the shell fabric, which is the outside, and 2 times in the shell fabric again for the lining, if you like. So 4 times, like it says here. Alternatively, you can do 2 times in a contrast and 2 times in shell, so that when the collar rolls to the outside, it's actually a contrast fabric. So that's a really nice thing that you can do here. Now let's have a look at the back. The back is cut on the fold, so that's fairly simple. And the collar from here, this part there, will actually be attached all the way around here. We'll also have a seam to the next bit. Okay, so that's fairly simple. For the back, we've got lining pieces, unlike the front, which is all the same. We've got a lining, which can be the same as your contrast. I think that's a really nice thing to do, which will be here. And then we also have got the top, and I call that the upper back facing. That will be sewn together, and that goes there. And then we've got the lower back facing. So instead of using the same piece again, we're piecing it together to get a really nice contrast. So when you open your jacket, you see something really pretty. And which way around you do that is up to you. And here I've used the shell fabric for the top, shell for the lower facing, and then for the lining I've used the contrast again. So that's up to you. I think this is very nice option. And that's my back. The sleeve has got a marking up here. That's the sleeve head, which you definitely need to mark, because it sits slightly more forward, as you can see here, so that when the sleeve is finished, it tilts towards the front ever so slightly, never towards the back. Then there's something wrong. The front is also a big error here, and that means please snip it when you're cutting out, so that you know which one is the front and which one is the back. And if I just fold my sleeve over here, what you can see is that the front is cut away an awful lot more than the back, and that's really important. If you ever made a sleeve before, or your only experience is that front and back looks the same, that is just not what will fit well. The front needs to be cut away more, because obviously your arm in this area here only goes forward, all right? So it doesn't need lots of space to do that. Whereas on the back, you need a lot more, because your shoulder rolls round, and if you do this with your arms and it's tight, then that's not a good thing. And that's why we have more on this line in length than we have here. Mark your sleeve head, mark your front. Then you've got 3 different lengths here. You've got the 3/4 length with a ruffle, and I'm just going to take my little Paris jacket ruffle here, and this is going to be attached like this, so lengthways in half, and then it is attached here. So the length you get is exactly the same length you get for a just plain 3/4 length sleeve, right? So that will be with a frill, and this is without the frill. But then you can put in a really nice long slit. You can also decide whether you want to make that slit shorter. Initially my slit was very short, like this, and some people said, oh, please make it longer. I don't think I like this very much that short. So of course I did, because I listened to people. And it's now, hang on, it would now go up to here, which gives you a really nice turn up to about this point. right? So that is very nice if that's what you want to do, but you can also play around and say, I'll have it a little bit shorter. Don't make it longer though. This is really the maximum length it should be. And then we've got the long sleeve length, which again is slightly longer than it needs to be, and then you can turn it up here and that would give you then the full length, which you can find on your pattern. It'll say exactly what length the sleeve will be. Finally, you've got one extra bit, which is a frill for the hem, and it works exactly like the frill for the sleeve. It also is in half, and that will extend your piece. So if you are wearing this with jeans, for example, you have this nice long ruffle on here, -2 centimeters from this point. So that's the complete length from there. And so you can wear this then with jeans, because this really is a jacket. Looks very nice over a dress. It can look very nice over a very fitted tall skirt, but it's not ideal for anything else really. So if you put the ruffle on, it makes it much more versatile and very pretty. Now, as you can see here, this is cut on the fold. That's why the arrow is there. But when I put my pieces on top, I haven't gone ruffle crazy here. I'm just going to put them there so that you can see. We have not got twice the amount here, but we've only got another third to it. So on your pattern, it says if you want more, just add 30 centimeters to it. Me personally, I'm not a great fan of big ruffles. So this is, for me, is perfect. If you want more, then please add a little bit to the width when you cut it out. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to cut out our fabric.